Hey, what's up? My name is Motion. I'm a music producer, instrumentalist, podcast editor, freelancer from Chicago. Welcome to my channel. Today, I wanted to address a topic that is very, very important to me and one that I feel like is often glossed over, unfortunately, in creative spaces, especially in the music production space. And that is the world of serving clients and customer service and customer experience and the processes that you need, and also the mindset shifts that you need as an artist in order to view yourself as a professional and present yourself as a professional service provider. And obviously this is an enormous topic and there is really so much that goes into this topic. So if any questions come up along the way or there's something that you want me to clarify, leave your questions down below and I will try to address them in a different video at some point. I'm gonna say up front that this video is not going to teach you exactly how to find clients. I think that kind of goes into a larger discussion on marketing, and I really wanna focus more on what you do when you get that inquiry and how you can avoid some of the mistakes that I've made and a lot of people have made. I'm also not an attorney, so this is not a video to give you legal advice on your contracts or your leases or royalties, rights to music, all of that type of thing. And lastly, I'm not gonna be, in this video at least, telling you how to price your work. I think that's a really personal topic and I'm kind of gonna touch on a little bit of the do's and don'ts of pricing, but I'm not gonna go into very much detail in this video. Instead, I'm addressing the mindset shifts and the practices that are needed to bring your potential client from inquiry to payment to delivery at the end of the process, and hopefully to open up a new stream of revenue in your business, whether or not this is your full-time job, whether you have a 9-to-5 and this is just a side hustle. I do believe that artistic creation, whether that is music production or otherwise, is a profitable skill and you deserve to make some money off of that. So one of the first basic shifts that you need to make, and one that I struggled with at the beginning, was who am I to do XYZ for money? Who am I to charge somebody to make music? I could go into a lot more detail about confidence and imposter syndrome and all of those good things, but just know that the sooner that you are able to think of yourself as a professional and a service provider and even an expert, the easier it's going to be to get past the blocks of, I don't deserve to make money from this. Simply put, the energy that you project out there is going to come back to you. And if a potential customer reaches out to you and you express hesitation about being worthy of being paid for this, your client will absolutely not feel that you are deserving of being paid. So it is all about the energy that we project. Obviously, if you are a complete beginner, I don't recommend you should start prospecting for clients. Definitely work on your craft first so that you do feel a little bit confident in your skills. But at a certain point, trial and error and faking it till you make it can get you to that next level of professionalism. The next shift is that your ability to provide a good customer experience is going to make you worth more money than if you did not have your processes set in place and you were appearing a little bit more amateur. Somebody is going to feel more comfortable giving you a bit more money because they feel taken care of by you. Just like dating, clear communication and clear boundaries are key in every step of this process. That could be scary to some, but just know that being as clear as possible about those boundaries and what is expected on both sides is not only going to make you worth more money, it's also going to weed out the people who are just scamming you in your DMs, who aren't actually serious about moving this project forward, don't have a budget, are gonna be a nightmare to work with, simply. And the last important mindset shift is to accept that your client is going to have the upper hand in the creative outcome of this project. Now, everybody's case may be a little bit different. I personally don't lease my beats to rappers. Sometimes I work with songwriters, but the majority of freelance work I do on the music side of things is to create custom podcast music. That's the gig that I've been able to get semi-consistently. And when I am under contract to make podcast music for somebody, it is no longer about what I want that music to sound like. Of course, you want somebody to be able to trust your artistic judgment, but at the end of the day, you are making a product to fit within somebody else's production, whether that be a song that they're creating, a short film, a podcast, there are a number of productions where music serves a purpose, and that purpose cannot just be you fulfilling your artistic vision. So kind of relinquishing a bit of that creative control and delivering what your client wants rather than just what you want to make is difficult for some people. It is difficult for me at times. But the trade-off to that is that you then have the upper hand in controlling your processes, and that includes your pricing, payment schedule, timeline, workflow, etc. So the sooner that you can understand and digest some of those things, the sooner you're going to be able to move forward in this scary world of client relationships, make money, and also give a good experience to the client that you were working with. There's a lot of added bonuses in just being somebody who is good to work with, easily referable. That's kind of the way that you move yourself up in an industry and form lasting professional relationships with people. All right, so now that we've addressed some of those mindset shifts, let's go on into the actual processes. So let's say that somebody slides into your DMs or sends you an email expressing interest in you making a track for them for whatever production purpose it is. Everybody's situation is going to be different. What you need to decide in advance is where you're going to send them when you get that type of inquiry. I don't think it's beneficial for you to go back and forth in the DMs deciding all of the logistics. You could create a questionnaire, for example, that asks all of the questions that you would need to know in order to do your job well for them, and send them the link to that and say, hey, thank you so much for reaching out. I'm super excited about this project. Here's an interest survey that I have, if you could fill that out. Are you gonna send them to a portfolio on your website? I don't necessarily think a website is necessary, especially in the beginning of your paid work, but that might be something you want to invest in later on because it does give a little bit more credibility and social proof online, especially if you can have testimonials up. Or borrowing from a lot of other online entrepreneurial spaces, perhaps you want to get on a call with them. I found this to be kind of successful when I'm working with podcasters, is to get somebody on what they call a discovery call. So you can send them to a scheduler like Calendly, which is free, and that scheduler integrates with Zoom. So you can have somebody pick a slot, it's all completely automated, and you can hop on a call with somebody for like 10 or 15 minutes just to get a sense of their vibe. I find this to be a really good way to weed people out pretty early on, because if somebody is serious about this project and is really interested in your work, they will want to get on the phone and ask questions of you. And if they're really not serious, they will definitely not want to book a call with you. So it's kind of a good indicator early on of somebody's seriousness. And it's also good practice in being able to talk about your work, talk about your process, answer people's questions, address their concerns before they've actually paid you. And it develops a little bit of trust and rapport so that they can trust you to pay the money that you're asking. Whether you direct them to a questionnaire form or a discovery call or a website, just know that the communication up front is absolutely on you. It is on you as the freelancer to set your expectations early and to describe to them the process that they're signing up for when they pay you to complete this service for them. A mistake I've made in the past serving podcasters and making intro outro music was relying on their language around genre to get a sense of what they were looking for music-wise. And music is probably one of the most subjective services that you can offer, and that's why it is absolutely on you to get this part right. What information do you need from your potential client in order to deliver something that they want, not what they think they want? Especially when it comes to music. Your potential client may not have the language around genre that you have as a avid music listener, as a music producer. When they say they want something jazzy, they probably don't mean what you might think they mean when they say jazzy. For example, that was an issue that I had kind of recently, and it was kind of a wake-up call to me to center my questions to them around the emotion and the feeling that they want listeners, viewers, consumers of that media type to feel when they hear the music, and not asking them what instruments do they want. Not everybody can frame what they're thinking of in those terms. So it is up to you as the music freelancer to phrase your questions to them in a way that makes sense to them and will properly communicate to you how to deliver on those expectations, because nothing is more awkward than sending something back, sending a first draft back to a client and them saying, oh, this actually isn't what I wanted. Can you start over? That's just not a fun position to be in. And in some ways it is inevitable because we're not mind readers, but the better we can do to ask the right questions up front is going to prevent some of those mishaps down the line. All right, let's talk a little bit about pricing now. I fully believe in being transparent about your pricing. Some people might disagree with me on this. Some people would like to ask a budget upfront. And if you're working with a brand or a company versus an individual, I would agree with this. You can ask them for their budget because they're probably not broke. But if you're working with individuals, I think it's just respectful to give somebody either a starting price or a range, and then give them the factors that would change X price. So you would have to decide as the freelancer if you're gonna charge hourly, if you're gonna charge by completion of a project, or if you're gonna have add-ons that increase the price. So the delivery file that you give to them, the types of rights that they're purchasing, the length of the audio, the number of tracks in the audio, whatever metrics that suit your workflow, you need to have a price in mind. So obviously experience will be the best teacher here. My very first commission beat, I charged $30 for. It was absolutely ridiculous. I had no confidence in my abilities. And I also didn't have a good enough estimate of how long certain projects would take me. So if you are describing your pricing to a client, you don't necessarily have to charge them hourly, but you should know approximately in your head how many hours it would take to do a certain project. So if somebody is asking for a full 3.5 minute completed mixed mastered track, how many hours would that take you? You don't have to tell the client how many hours it would take you, but you should have a number in your head so that you can kind of determine what your range of price would be for that type of a project. And don't be afraid to give yourself a decent hourly rate, if only to keep that number in your head when you're making these projections. You deserve to live, you deserve to eat. End of story. I would absolutely recommend always at least require a deposit upfront before you begin services. Don't ever put yourself in a situation where you have delivered a finished product to a client and then you ask for payment. Just why even put yourself in that position? If you are doing the work to communicate with your client and make them feel taken care of, they should have no problem giving you that deposit upfront, if not the entire amount of money upfront. So just know what your preference is and enforce that every single time. Also have a process of how you will get paid. It looks so much more professional to send an invoice through an electronic service than to request somebody on Venmo or PayPal, or to send an invoice by PDF asking for wire transfer of funds. Like, this is a step where you need to make it dumb easy for your client to pay you the money that you've asked for. If you make it one step too long, that could mean the difference between you getting paid or not. It really is that crucial. I personally use an invoicing software called QuickBooks. It's also my bookkeeping software. It's not free. I think I pay like $15 a month for it, but it is seamless. I put my client's information into the invoicing software. They get an email notification. They can click a button and pay online. Gets direct deposited to me. I love it. It's easy, it's efficient. Wave Accounting is a really popular free invoicing software that I do recommend. I just don't recommend PayPal or Venmo. So just payment, know what your pricing tiers are, be as clear as you can to your client about what affects the pricing so that they know what to expect and are willing to pay you what you're asking for. Have an easy invoicing system and enforce the payment schedule that works for you and your workflow. Now, the last crucial element to successfully working with clients as a music freelancer or a freelancer in any field is your use of contracts. Now, this can be a scary topic, and I want to re-emphasize that I am not an attorney and I'm not going to be able to give you a template or the exact verbiage that you need to use in your contract. There's going to be a lot of research you need to do. It could even be worth the investment of purchasing a template or ordering a custom contract from a trusted attorney. However, Just know that a contract is absolutely essential to any transaction of funds for services. Because what does a contract do? It gives both parties accountability and peace of mind. You will have every step of that process laid out in the contract for both of you to sign and agree on what the expectations are in this relationship. It can hopefully prevent a number of disputes or any shady things that could go down in terms of payment or the freelancer not delivering the product or service on time. It's all a part of this clear communication boundary setting up front. So have a contract in place. I'm not an attorney, but I do believe that even having a page where you describe your scope of work and what the deliverables are would be better than nothing. If you don't have a full blown out 10-page contract with all of the legal jargon, something is probably better than nothing. So what your contract needs, this is not an exhaustive list. However, you definitely need a section that talks about the term and the timing of this contract. So for music gigs, most of these contracts will be a one and done. You deliver the product, you're off the contract. Unlike the other main freelance service that I do, which is podcast editing, my clients are on a monthly retainer cycle. So my scope of contract is usually 3 months or longer. However, if you're a music producer, artist, the term of the contract is just until the completion of whatever project you are being contracted to complete. You also absolutely need to spell out the payment schedule. Are you requiring a deposit up front? Are you giving your clients a payment schedule of 2 or more payments? Is all of it due up front? Be as crystal clear as you can regarding the price and when each payment is due. Furthermore, if your client is late in paying that second payment, are you going to charge them a late fee? What is the penalty that comes with them not paying what was agreed upon in your contract? That's something that you need to keep in mind. What is the scope of work total? What can your client expect for you to deliver to them, and when can they expect it to be delivered? If you owe them a first draft and a second draft and a final draft, again, be crystal clear in the schedule of deadlines and the file formats and the number of revisions allowed within this scope of work. And the reverse to this is also be as clear as possible on what is not covered in the scope of work. Consider any possible confusions of what your client might be expecting from you, but what you are not obligated to deliver. Are they getting stems or not? And if they do want stems, would that be an additional fee, or is it wrapped up into the scope of work already? Just an example. You also need to be clear on what the client is entitled to in terms of usage of your music. You should always remain the copyright holder of the master of your work. However, you do need to spell out for your client what appropriate usage of that music is or not. Please go do your research on this, but it is important to be as clear as possible in the contract. And overall, you should be able to explain each piece of this contract to your client in plain English. You can never over-communicate what these expectations are. You want to make sure that there is no confusion. And then lastly, just as it is with the invoice, you should also make it as easy as possible to e-sign this contract. Please do not send a Google Doc to your client, ask them to print it out and sign it and scan it and send it back to you. That's just too many steps, and you don't want to deter people from making the step to commit to paying you and working with you. So I recommend softwares like HelloSign, DocuSign, EverSign. I think I use EverSign, and if I'm not wrong, each of these softwares should have a free tier. So I know that EverSign allows me to send, I think, like 8 documents a month before they start charging. And all you do is upload the PDF of your contract. You can specify where each person is to sign, the date that they signed, and all you will do is enter your client's email and they'll get a notification and it'll send them through a portal to e-sign, easy peasy. I think we're seeing that the themes of this entire process are like simplicity and clarity. As simple as you can make this process, make it as easy as possible for people to say yes to you, for people to pay you, for people to work with you and recommend you to other people. And make it as clear as possible so that both parties are getting what they signed up for in this professional agreement. I know some of this must have been overwhelming. I know sometimes it still is for me. I know that I'm constantly having to update my processes and make it simpler on the front end and on the back end. So let yourself learn, let yourself make mistakes, but trust in your ability to show up as a professional, trust in your worthiness of being paid for something that you like to do, and it will get easier with time. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any other questions about this topic, I'm probably going to be making more. So please leave your questions in the comments and I will try to address any other concerns that people are having. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, for sticking around. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, follow me on Instagram @_motion, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.